I was born and raised in a dysfunctional childhood, and in Middleland in Soweto. My father was an alcoholic. It was bad. It was horrible. We spent nights screaming and crying, begging my father not to beat my mother. He was just extremely violent. All the body marks that she has come from my father. She was married when she was young, and she got divorced when she was 32. And she's still alone up to today. She accepted Christ in her life, and she lives for God. And I think if she wasn't like that, I wouldn't be able to cope with where I've been. I always thought that I'll never get married because of the marriage that I saw in my family. So I thought, I don't want marriage and I don't want children. And that was the bottom line. But believe you me, by the age of 19, I was married. I was Mrs. Diale. How? It happened so unexpectedly. I met my husband. He was gorgeous. He was sweet. He was loving, caring. We shared a lot. We could talk, and we could read together. We had a lot of things that we both shared that made us become friends. And then, we got married early. And I was a nurse. I was still in training then. At the last year of my training, I got married to him. And we had a wonderful life. But I guess I didn't recognize the pattern of behavior, that it was like my father, And along the way, it became violent when I least expected it to be violent. Then when I was pregnant, I had my eldest son, Lesego, my favorite boy, and I had my second born, my best friend, Olerato. Initially, we had spoken that we wouldn't have any more children. The two were just fine because I had lost 3 other children before the 2. So then I had this pregnancy with Tsepa, and it was unexpected, it was unplanned, it was unthought of. I think we were playing games if we thought we didn't want to be pregnant, and we were not, worrying about it and doing something about it per se. When my son Tsepa was diagnosed because of continuously being sick, I was hurt. I was devastated, because it said so many things to me. It immediately told me that there's no way he's infected if I'm not, And I think that's when it rang true, that it means my husband had the other things that he was doing. That's why he was getting violent and he had issues, or he knew that he was HIV positive, and he didn't say anything to me. He didn't protect me. So the very same day, the doctor said to me, "You've got to get tested, Mrs. Diale, because if your son is positive, possibly you are also positive." So I had a hospital gown. I pulled up and he took blood, and I had to wait for 7 days. That was the worst 7 days of my life, and I don't think I've ever prayed like I prayed. I prayed walking down the street. I prayed wherever I was. I was saying to God, I'm a sinner. I'm not the best, but I've always honored you, and I kind of hope that you'll make sure that I survive, for the benefit of my children, if for anything. And more than anything, I was thinking about my daughter, because I come from there. I know what it feels like if you don't have the things that you need, and you are not sure about your education, you are not sure about your home, you don't have a place to stay. These were things that were going through my mind. So I went away. And then after 7 days, the doctor called, the results are in. When I walked through the door, I said to him, "Hey, when doctor, am I dying or living?" I was trying to put some humor in it. He looked at me and said, "Sit down, you are dying." So I said, "How bad?" He said, "Your CD for cell count is 230. So I said, "What does it mean?" He said, "You are going to die." I said, "How soon?" He said, "It's a matter of weeks or months, or a year or so, but it's not going to be 2 years." I cried. I said, and I just couldn't believe it has happened, because what we knew about HIV was that it happens to other people. People who don't behave. If you're well behaved or married, it will never happen to you. I was devastated. I thought my life was over, and I had to put myself together, one way or the other. So I went home, and I told my family, I told my mother, and I told my kids. I said, "Your brother is dying." I didn't tell them about me. I just said, "Your brother is dying. We've got to help him." And it was hard. It was hard. It took me about 2 to 4 years, to be able to tell my mother, because I was waiting to see if I'm going to die or live. So I spoke to everyone about how to survive. I learned every little bit that I could, so I could start taking care of myself. And towards the following year, my CD4 cell count began to pick up. When it was 400, I told my mother, I said, "Ma, I have HIV, and if Fando isn't dead by now, I'm not gonna die either, but it was devastating. It was painful. Because Tsepa was constantly sick, I would be absent at work. And my colleagues who are nurses as well, professional people who know this virus very, very well, who nurse the patients, were stigmatizing. They started saying, oh, wonderful marriage, happily married, What happened? Where does the HIV come from? Isn't that you are married to the best husband and you have everything of the best and then you become HIV positive? Oh, what happened? Who's unfaithful? You, the husband. It was tough. The stigma was horrible. And stigma starts with gossip. Then it becomes more talk, even when you are present. And people start not using your things. And it's nurses, for goodness sake. And then it becomes discrimination. And then everybody just, is in your face about you being HIV positive. So I decided to let it go and start doing something about it. Then I started a support group at work, and people came and who attended the support group. And it changed the whole outlook of my life. I think that's when I realized what my purpose was, that I can speak to people, I can teach people, I can learn from people, I can do things that relate to living positively. And living positively is about making sure, first, that you understand the disease, how it evolves. Secondly, it's about knowing what your CD4 cell count is, the strength of your body, early, so that you keep it at a level where your body remains healthy. It's about making sure that you don't engage sexually until your body is strong, if you are going to continue to engage, or you've got to be very careful about how you are utilizing your body from a sexual point of view, because it makes it get tired. Living with it is always painful. There are days where, just because we've seen somebody who is your age, who is also HIV positive and is in the throes of dying, and all that you think about is their children, is painful. It gets back to say to you, where are you? How far are you? Do you think you'll get there, to that level of being sick, or are you going to continue fighting so you don't get sick? So in 2005, because of the issues that were happening in the house and the fear, I think, that my son had that I will die one day, so many people were dying that we know, he wrote me a suicide note and said, Ma, I love you, and I love my siblings. I would love to be here to see Tsepa grow and become a big boy, and Ulerato grow and become a big girl, but I don't think I can cope with the way we live, and I'm sorry, to do this to you, because it's like I'm doing what my father did to you. But Mina, I cannot live anymore. I have to go, and it has to be this way. And I'm sorry, but I want you to remember that I love you lots, all of you, and please look after my siblings like you looked after me. I'm sorry that I'm like a coward. I can't be helpful enough, And he hung himself. He committed suicide by hanging himself. If we had spoken about it, because I'm very open with my kids, we speak about everything. If he had told me how he felt, I would have worked on him to get him to be fine, but it didn't happen like that. And it broke me, broke my children, it broke everybody in the family. It broke even my younger brother, and I thought it would change him, but unfortunately it didn't, He still does what he does, and I pity him, but you can only love someone and give them support. Sometimes you can't live their lives for them, and I think I'm beginning to learn that. And as for that chapter passing, we miss him, we talk about him. But then, there's two of them now. And then one of the decisions that I had to redo was reinforce myself and say, Bona Angelina, it's about Fando, Tsepa, and Ulerato. And you've got to strengthen yourself. The book of Job, Job 38, has been my greatest strength in the worst times, even during the best times. When I'm restored, I go back to this book and I remember that Job was restored completely, more than what he had expected. When I'm down and out, I go back to this book to look for resilience in the Lord, to say, my Father, I'm your child, you know me better than anyone, and I am coming back to you to say, reinforce, strengthen, show me the way forward. But my dream is to live until I'm 80 years old. I want to have wrinkles, so I'm fighting for the wrinkles.